Yeah, good evening, everybody. So, mm, this is eighth week syllabus discussion, and you might have gone through the videos, class videos shared by the professor for week eight. So, basically, the idea or the main topics that were discussed during the eighth week was about the break-even analysis, various things about it, then something about economic order quantity, etc. And then towards the end there was a discussion on these things, financial leverage, operational leverage, etc., etc. Okay, so we'll see those things, and as we usually do, uh, we'll start with concepts, and in the mean, like during the discussion only, in between we'll take questions so that you understand what it means. So this is not only problem solving class, you can also take it as a revision class also. Okay. And this week 8 assignment, its due date is tomorrow, so I'll not solve the same questions, but we can solve the same questions like similar on similar lines, because I've seen your week 8 assignment, and the questions are not uh, that like unique or something. You can frame similar questions, but you can change the values of numbers, but the formula remains same, so you can just use those things. Okay, so let's start. So the first thing that was discussed is they call this as a break-even analysis. Break-even analysis, or it is also called as cost volume profit analysis. So the most commonly known name is the break-even analysis, but sometimes they call this as cost volume also, cost volume profit analysis. Lesser known name, but sometimes they use these things. So in a nutshell, what we study under this heading is basically a pretty simple model to estimate the break-even point. So break-even means whatever investments you have put in. So we usually consider them as costs. So fixed costs include the costs which are not dependent on the units of product, like number of products or number of units produced. Okay. So those costs are usually considered under fixed costs, and variable costs, as the name suggests, they are the component of investment, or initial, or even incremental capital that you put, which is variable in nature. So typically they align that with the number of units produced, etc. Okay. So the formula is pretty simple, but you should know that it is a simple formula because there are various assumptions that have been considered. Okay. Okay. So the thing is, if you consider in this analysis, we assume that various types of costs, like fixed cost, which consists of land cost, or a rent that you pay every week or every month or every year, then the salaries of employees and the depreciation costs, etc. So we assume that they are constant for some long amount of time, some number of years. And variable costs, we assume that they are only dependent on the number of units produced or the volume of units produced. But in reality, it may not be so. It depends on business to business. For example, if it is a cyclical business, raw material cost may vary depending on the type of raw materials that are used for the business, and even the labor costs, etc. Because labor is also, if it is a labor intensive industry, they may need labor, uh, like more labor for certain duration. For example, if it is a sugarcane factory, they need more laborers, more number of laborers during summer season, because uh, the that's the peak season for that business, right? But they don't need that many laborers during the lean periods. So you can't only connect your costs, only with the number of units or output of your business or factory or whatever you want to call it. But we assume in this analysis as the constant. The variable costs that are included are clearly defined and are constant over, are only, fixed costs are constant and the variable costs are only function of volume output. Okay. Second is, we consider there is only one type of unit produced. Okay, because if you see in many businesses they have different SKUs, stock keeping units they call it. So in this analysis, we only analyze one unit at a time. That's why we consider production price or this cost price, etc. Uh, you know per unit basis. So it's like one type of unit. But even you can see, right, if it's, let's say, a FMCG company or something, they have like you know uh, different SKUs depending on the brand, depending on the weightage, the net weight of the component, etc., etc. So that kind of sales mix we don't consider in this kind of analysis. This is like a simple basic analysis for a single unit. Okay, we assume that the as the volume increases, the variable cost is also same, per unit variable cost, but that doesn't happen because there is some phenomenon called as uh, advantages of scaling, etc. So basically, if you produce more number of units, you know uh, so in the long term, basically that helps. If your number of units produced are less, so that's not that scalable kind of thing. So you can't take the advantage of the scalable machines or anything like that. Okay, so as the tonnages, or as the number of units increase, the variable cost that you put in, usually there is a incremental decrease like that. But here we assume it has to be constant, and all those things we uh, consider constants only. We don't consider the effect of efficiency. We assume that the machine that is producing the number of units today will work at the same efficiency after 2 years, 3 years, etc. That usually doesn't happen. There is always wear and tear in the machines, so the efficiency goes down. Even the manpower that you use, that may also not have same efficiency, right? In factory, on the shop floor, not all the employees have same efficiency, right? So if on one day efficient worker is operating the line, he will have better efficiency. Some number of outputs or units produced will be more as compared to some inefficient worker. Okay. So these kind of things are there. Plus, one very big thing is we don't consider external factors like inflation, economic changes, environmental regulations, and all those things, government regulations, union union demands, all those things. Those are not there, and usually we consider this for a short period of time. So like we don't use this analysis for like like to project in the future, like 20 years, 30 years down the line. We don't usually do that. We typically deal with the situation where you have to predict break even, let's say less than 5 years, something like that, because because of all these assumptions of definite cost, constant efficiency, etc., etc. You can't project in the future for long. Okay, so that these are some of the limitations of this model, but still it's very widely used model. Okay, even if it is a simple kind of analysis, but in industry they use widely these kind of things, or at least in the preliminary scenario. Okay, so I'll just redraw those diagrams and we'll maybe then take some problems. So this is your cost and this is your number of units produced. Okay, so this is your day zero. So origin is basically at the start of the production. So before the start you need to put up the capital, right, that we consider as a part of fixed cost. Okay, so let's say this comes here. So this is your fixed cost. So you have not produced anything, but still you have to pay something to start the business. So that comes under the category of fixed cost. And after that, you assume that so there will be a certain slope. Okay, so this will be a total cost line, which is nothing but fixed cost plus variable cost. So fixed cost is constant, variable cost is a function of number of units. So we assume that small v is a uh, unit price, selling price of unit per unit. So and then you multiply with the oh no, not selling price. Sorry, it's a variable cost. So it's like a making up price. And then you have another line. Usually, they maybe let's use green color for this. So this is called as the revenue line. Okay. So this is called as revenue line. So R is the symbol for that. So I am following usually, I mean, the the symbols that professor followed in the class, so that there should not be any confusion. So this revenue will be nothing but equal to selling price per unit into number of units sold. Okay. So at the start, since you have not sold anything, revenue is 0. But as the time progresses, uh, you end up with more and more revenue depending on the number of units produced. And you should always keep in mind that the selling price should be higher than the variable cost. Okay. Otherwise, these two lines will never intersect, because this selling price and unit variable cost, etc., they are slopes of these straight lines. And for the intersection point to have the break even analysis, P has to be greater than V. Otherwise, these lines will never intersect. And I mean, it takes a lot of time if like V is very high than P. Okay. So usually the practice is like that only. At whatever cost you produce, you try to sell it at higher costs. That's common sense also, and mathematically also you can say that. Okay. And then this is called as your break-even point, and this amount where you achieve your break-even. Let's say we denote it by Q star. Okay. So that is called as break-even quantity. Okay. And then there is another curve which is called as profit curve. So initially, since you have put up fixed cost, and then you are paying variable cost also till Q star. So initially you will not have any profit. So basically, you will be somewhere here. So you are at loss basically initially at the start of the production. And then this line will pass through here. Something like this. So this line will have slope somewhere in between. So this is your profit line. Okay, so that's why we say that before break even you are in loss, and after break even you can whatever number of units you produce and sell, they basically contribute to your profit. Okay, so that's the general idea. And profit is nothing but by the formula, if you want to see, it is nothing but R minus T, matlab revenue minus total cost. So that gives you P minus V into Q minus FC. So when Q is 0, profit is minus FC. So that's why it has a negative intercept on the y-axis when you draw this line. Okay, and at break-even point, your profit is 0. So basically, this is called as neck-to-neck condition, or just profitable business. Okay, so you can understand this in any context. Um, Nowadays, many people are investing in equity markets, etc. So there are certain startups like some few years back, Zomato, etc., was listed on the stock exchanges. So at the time of listing, uh, these businesses, they were not having a net profit. Okay, so they were operating, maybe if you can relate that to this diagram. So the startups, when they are in the initial burnout phase, when they are burning a lot of cash in order to capture this market and eliminate the competition. So that is this period. So they are in the loss region. Okay, and once they eliminate all the competition or become the dominant player in the market, then they start to focus on the efficiency, improving, etc., etc., and then they come into profitable region or regime. Okay, and this is sometimes also called as turnover stories. You might have heard if you are enthusiast of that field. But many a times you hear that a certain company is able to turn around especially a few companies where you have heavy debt. Okay, so they have borrowed money for various purposes, and for some reason they are not able to pay. But then management steps up and they make operational changes, etc. They cut down costs, increase operational efficiencies, and then they they try to reduce your costs and they try to increase your revenue, and then eventually they reach a point where you have break even, and that is also called as turnaround stories. So you might have heard these kind of things. So recently, Zomato uh, kind of company you can consider under this category. So these are because the problem is, this mathematics, if I just teach like this, it's very boring and you know maybe not interesting. So if you can relate this to your real life applications or companies that you see around, you can think of it like that. So now Zomato is trying to coming to this region. Okay, so they are, I think, a few years, like maybe a couple of years back, they achieved their break even, and now they are trying to do this. But real life is quite difficult, no? It's not like you'll have infinite profits once you break even. It doesn't happen that way, because if some business is very profitable, others will try to also emulate that same thing, which happened with Paytm. So Paytm was the pioneer of this QR code, UPI payment kind of technologies, right? But and then they started, doing ads, etc., on their app, etc., promotions, etc. But then others saw, and they also came into the market, their competitors, etc. And nowadays the problem is Paytm is struggling to remain profitable. They were profitable for some time, but now they have gone like this. We don't consider those things in this analysis, so that's not the part of this. But I'm just telling you that in real life, this is not very easy to achieve. Maybe older companies like Reliance or JSW Steel, Tata Steel. So those are dominant players. They have done their initial investment period, etc., and then they can achieve these kind of things. But if you're a small company, it's very difficult to keep on making profits, because once people realize that a certain field is profitable, everybody jumps in, and then the competition grows, and everything goes to price power, all the things start. Anyway, so this is about break-even quantity or break-even analysis, basic stuff. So here you should know how do you calculate the break-even quantity, which is nothing but this Q star. That is nothing but when your profit is zero. So that means this happens when your revenue is just equal to total cost, and then you can do some derivation, and then you get Q star equal to FC, fixed cost, divided by P minus V. So P is your selling price per unit, V is your variable cost per unit that you incur. Okay. So that formula, I think all of you know, but the important thing that you should remember is this Q star is directly proportional to the fixed cost. Okay, so if you increase your fixed cost, Q star is also increased. So that means you achieve break even. To achieve the break even, you need higher volumes. Okay, and similarly, if you increase, let's say, selling price, so what happens? This goes down, and therefore Q star increases. So Q star is also directly proportional to. Maybe I can write it this way. I don't need to write every time. So it is also directly proportional to the selling price. So that's why many times nowadays you might have seen this, automobile companies, they keep on increasing the selling price of their products, and because their inventory or raw material costs, etc., keep going up. So that's how they also manage their break evens, etc., and profitability things. And it is inversely proportional to the variable cost. So uh, variable cost, if it increases, the denominator decreases and the whole ratio goes up. Okay. One second. Let's say this increases, so this will decrease, and this ratio will increase. One second. The question is, what is the relation between Q star and V, which is your variable price? Okay, so We can take one simple example and see. Let's say, P, let's say case one, your uh, P is, you know, V by 3. So that means your, let's say, Q1 star becomes FC by P minus V by 3, right? Oh, it should be 3V, not V, because P has to be greater than V. Okay, so in that case, this becomes 2V. Okay, this is Q star. And if I increase the variable cost, keeping P same, okay, so in that case, what happens? This will come something like this, because let's say this is P1, and I'm increasing the variable cost, keeping the P or the selling price same. So in that case, that multiplier will go down because V1 V1 is increased to V2, so P has to be same. Okay. So in such cases, your break-even quantity, assume that FC is same, so P minus V, right? So that will become if this is V1, this will become V2, right? Because 2V2 minus V2 is just V2, and from here you can say that this V1 is nothing but 2 by 3 times V2, right? So you can just plug this here and see what happens. So V1 is 2 by 3 times V2, so this becomes 4 by 3 V2, isn't it? So this is nothing but 3 by 4 times uh, your FC by V2. Okay, so if you compare these two, what do you get? That Q1 star is less than Q2 star. Yeah, so if you increase V, uh, Q also increases. Yeah, I think it is opposite. This should be 1 by P, right? Because if you increase P, the difference increases and the ratio goes down. Yeah, so this should be 1 by P. Yeah, now it makes sense. Okay. So I can give you such kind of, because see the idea is this Q star, it is a function of three variables, FC and P and V. So I can frame any question where I'll just, you know, uh, maybe one question I'll just give you for an example. Maybe I'll just see. Okay, so a plant produces, let's say 4,000 refrigerators per month. And incurs 5 lakhs. 5 lakhs as a fixed cost per month. Okay. Variable cost is rupees 2,000 per refrigerator, and this selling price is 4,500 per unit. The break-even point in number of units per month is, okay. So now this is a typical template question. So they have given you everything and they are asking you to find the break even in number of units per month. Okay, so your time horizon is month here. So in 1 month, what is the fixed cost that you incur? that is independent of the number of refrigerator units produced, that is 5 lakhs. And the selling price P is 4,500 per unit, and the variable cost is 2,000 uh, rupees per unit, let's say. Okay, so then the break even quantity will be nothing but FC minus P minus V. Okay, so FC is 5 lakhs, P is 4,500 minus 2,000, so that comes out to be 2,500, right? So 2 zeros will go away, so this is nothing but 5,000 by 25, so that is nothing but 200, isn't it? So this is the break-even cost per month, and what they are doing is they are actually producing 4,000. Okay, so this is this many units per month, and Q actual that they are doing is around 4,000 per month, right? So if you correlate this to our simple diagram, if they only produce around 200 per month, they will be fine, because uh, you know this is the point where they need only 200, but they are doing very good. Okay, so this business is quite profitable at this point, because they are able to produce 4,000 where they only need 2,000 to break even. Okay, so like that, 200 to do the break even. Okay, so like that we should uh, uh, try to solve this question. So now what I'll do, I'll keep this as unknown and I'll give you Q star. Okay, and something like that. Okay, so those things are there. And sometimes maybe I'll give you one problem where they ask something else. So let me just find it. 1 second. Mm, there was this question where you need to find in how much time will you achieve. Okay. Okay, so that is also called as uh, yeah, and this P minus V. Okay, so this P minus V term, uh, this P minus V is also called as margin contribution, or contribution of margin, or something like that. Okay, so sometimes they don't mention that they are giving you P minus V, they just mention that they are giving you something which is called as margin contribution or contribution margin. So these are sometimes these kind of things are used. Okay, and sometimes what they do, they give you something called as production rate. Okay, so maybe I'll write it here only. So sometimes they ask you to find not break even quantity, they ask you to find break even time. Okay, so that is nothing but let's say this is T star. So this T star is given by Q star, so that is your break even quantity into Q into T star. And what is Q? Q is your production rate. Okay, so sometimes they ask this kind of things. I saw one problem, but I'm not able to find it right now. Just check again. Yeah, I mean, the same thing is there. I mean, I'm not able to find that question right now, but it's more or less same only. You just have to get the production rate from the problem. They will give those things, and then you have to subtract certain no multiply with T star to get Q star. So if you know Q star and Q, get T star. If they have given you T star and Q, then get the Q star. So anything is possible. They can play around those things. Okay. So maybe we'll take one or two more problems on this, because this is important topic. So what they do is, so again, this is a question. So they are producing, a firm produces some 8,60,000 units per year. They have not mentioned which units. Is presently yeah, 1 second, the question is slightly tedious. Okay, so the firm with capacity of 8,006 units per year is presently operating at 50% of its full capacity. Okay, so these kind of tricky things they mention sometimes in the question. Annual revenue for this firm is 50,80,000. Okay, and annual fixed cost is 21,60,000. Sorry. Okay. And variable cost is rupees, or maybe I'm not mentioning rupees or dollars because everything is in the same unit. So it is 3.85 per unit. Okay. And the question is the annual profit or loss would be. Okay, so this is the question where they are not asking you to find break even here. What they are asking you to find is what is the annual profit or loss. Okay, so now here the annual profit or loss depends on your revenue and expenditure, right, or total cost. Okay, so they have given you annual revenue. Okay, revenue. So we are using R symbol for this. So it is nothing but 50 lakhs 80,000 rupees or dollars, whatever it is. Okay, and annual total cost, let's say TC, will be sum of FC plus VC, right? Fixed cost and variable cost. Fixed cost they have directly given. Variable cost they have given you variable this thing, right? Price. Okay, so FC plus small v into Q. Okay. But here there is a catch, right? Because if you see the first line, they are saying a firm with a capacity of 8,60,000 units per year is presently operating at only 50% of its full capacity. So it's not producing 8,60,000. It is producing half of that. Okay, so therefore the Q is nothing but 0.5 into 8,60,000. So 8,60,000 is the total capacity, but it's operating at 50%. So it is producing only 4,30,000 units annually right now. Okay. So therefore your total cost comes out to be fixed cost is 21,60,000 plus this 3.85 is your variable cost per unit into 4,30,000 you have to do. Okay, so if you do this, you should get the total cost around 31 lakh 81 oh sorry 38 lakh 15,500. Okay, so now you have to compare two things. See, the revenue is around 50 lakhs and the total cost is around 38 lakhs. So since revenue is greater than the total cost, that means it's a profitable adventure or profitable business, and the profit is nothing but R minus TC. If it is, in some case, let's say R is less than TC, then the loss will be R minus TC. So that will be a negative number. That's why we call it as a loss. Okay, so When R minus TC is greater than 0, that's profit. When R minus TC is less than 0, that's a indication of loss. Okay, so if you subtract this, you get 12,64,500 as the profit. Okay, so this is one type of question that they ask. Now what they can ask is another question under this only sub question. Okay, so let's say this is your question number A. Okay, so I can ask you this also, that what is the break-even quantity for this business? And if you see, Q star is nothing but FC by P minus V, isn't it? And now here the problem is they have not given you P. So is there any way to find P? There is, right? Because this P will be, see, FC they have given, V they have given, P you don't know, but you know that what is the total revenue and what is the number of units produced. Okay, so therefore here P you can calculate first. P will be nothing but annual revenue by actual units produced, isn't it? So annual revenue is given as R and units produced is given as Q. So R is 50 lakh 80,000 and Q is your actual number of units produced, that is 4 lakh 30,000. Okay. So these 4 zeros cancel. So basically 508 by 43 you have to do. Okay. So let me do that. 508 divided by 43. If you do that, you get P as 11.81. Okay, so per unit. So this is your selling price per unit. Okay, so therefore the break-even quantity is, fixed cost is I think 21 lakhs 60,000, and then P minus V will be 11.81 minus V is 3.85. Okay, so what is this number? 21 lakh 60,000 divided by 11.81 minus 3.85. Okay. So therefore the Q star is some 2,71,000. 2,71,357. Okay. And what are the number of actual units that they are producing is around, if you see here, they are producing around 4,30,000. But even if they only produce 2,70,000 also, they will break, they will achieve the break-even point. So then, next question that I can frame is, in with current production rate, in how many months will the firm achieve break-even? So now I am asking you to find break-even time, because you know break-even quantity. So I had given you the correlation, right? Q star is equal to Q into T star. So I'm asking you to find T star. Q star, you know, capital Q star. The missing piece is here, small q, which is the production rate, right? So here, what is the production rate? You are producing 4,30,000 units in 1 year or 12 months. Okay? Because I am asking you the answer in months. So you are producing 4,30,000 units in 12 months. So in 1 month, how much you are producing? 4,30,000 divided by 12. So in 1 month, I am like the firm is producing around 35,833.3 units. Okay. So therefore, if you want to produce 2,71,356 units at the production rate of, this is per month, at the production rate of 35,833 per month. So 271,356 divided by 35833.3. So that gives me a number which is 7.57 months. Okay. So just for the sake of giving a complete number, uh, in 8 months break even is achieved. Okay, so after the 8th month, I mean, like 7.6 only, but let's say for the completion of, just giving the integer number as the answer. So we are achieving 8 months break even only, and the last 4 months it's all profits. Okay, so that is why the profits that you get, which is nothing but around 12,64,000 that you get at the end, during the last 4 months of your year. Okay. And now one more question that I can frame in this kind of scenario is, see, I can frame a lot of different types of questions. For example, uh, at what percentage of full, or at what efficiency can the firm operate to achieve the break even in, let's say, 10 months, or maybe uh, yeah, okay, let's say 10 months. Okay, so this kind of questions can also be framed. So what I am asking here is, in this question they are saying that even if the machine or the firm operates at the 50% capacity of its full production capacity, still they are achieving the break even within 8 months, and 4 months they are getting profits. So, now the question that I'm asking is, if I want to achieve the break even in 10 months, at what efficiency should the firm operate of its full capacity? Okay. So the thing is, if I want to achieve the break even Q star of 2,71,356 units in 10 months, requires production rate of 27356 by 10. That is 27,135.6 units per month, right? And that means, if I multiply this by 12, so that is units per year, because they have given you the annual capacity, right? So 27135.6 into 12, that will give you, so you just need to produce this much units in your whole year. Okay, because you achieve the break even at within 8 months, right? So with this 2,70,000 units, and if you keep on doing the at the same pace for the full, or the last 4 months also, in the remaining 4 months, so what will happen is, instead of producing this 4,30,000 components, you will just produce 3,25,000. Okay, so the percentage capacity utilization will be, actually you are producing these many units, whereas your machine could produce 8,60,000 if it is operated at full capacity. So that means you don't need to operate your machine at 50% capacity, or your firm at 50% capacity. You can do this in lesser capacities also. Okay. So that gives you 37.86%. Okay. So I'm saying, instead of operating at 50%, even if I operate for full year at 37.86 or 37.9% capacity, then also I will achieve the break even within the 10 months. Okay. And corresponding profits will be, you can calculate, right? Because you know let's assume the production or the selling price remains constant. So then you will calculate how much additional units you produced after the break even. That will be the difference between 2,71,35. That 2,71,356. Yeah, I mean, I'll give you one more question. I am giving you all type of questions that could be asked from this kind of analysis, so that you will be comfortable if you see something like that in your exam or somewhere. Okay. Based on case D, what will be the annual profit or loss? Okay, so we are just going back to the first question. So here the difference between first and last question that we are studying is, number of units are different, and here you need to assume same selling price. I mean, assume same, assume other data, other price values to be same. Okay. So basically the P and V are not changing, only Q is changing. Okay. So in this case, what will be your annual revenue? That will be the number of units produced. So we are producing 30,25,000 these many units, right? 27 56.27.2, let's say, and you're selling them at same price. So what was the price? 11.81. Okay, so the revenue that you will generate from this much production into 2 into 11.81 is around 38 lakhs 45,657. Okay, I'm rounding it off now because otherwise it's and then annual cost. So that includes total cost. So that will be fixed cost plus variable cost, right? So fixed cost is around 21 lakhs. So that is independent of number of units, right? So that cost was 21 lakhs 60,000. 60,000 plus 3.85 is your variable cost per unit, and you are producing 32, 56, 27.2. Okay. So 32, 56, 27.2 into 3.85 plus 60,000. One more zero will be there. So your annual cost comes out to be 34 lakhs 13,665. Okay. So still you are profitable because your annual revenue is more than your annual cost. So the profit that you operate or profit that you get if you operate your machine at only 38% of its full capacity is a difference of these two. Okay, so that will be 38 lakh 45,657 minus 34 lakh 13,665. So you are getting the profit of about 4,31,992. Okay. So the firm is still profitable, but the profit is reduced because you are operating at lower efficiencies and producing lower volumes. But still, that volume is greater than the break-even point, so you are still profitable. Okay. So these type of questions can be asked if you do this kind of analysis. And yeah, one more question that is called as targeted profit. So let's say this is like backward calculating. So I will have certain profit in my mind, and for that, how much units I need to produce? That is the question. Okay. For example, mm, and yeah, I think one note that professor had also given you about cash break-even technique. So basically, what they do, this usually this fixed cost is very high. So maybe I'll just write down it as a note. Okay. So this is cash break-even analysis. So here, what they do, this Q star is nothing but FC minus NC divided by P minus V. So NC is nothing but non-cash. Okay, so this is called as NC is called as non-cash charges. Okay, so these include depreciation, amortization, deferred taxes, provision for bad debt. We deduct this from deducted from the fixed cost, the total fixed cost, to lower the Q star. Okay, because many a times financial decisions are taken based on the Q star. So what happens? Sometimes if Q star is very large, somebody may reject the project altogether, saying that it's not worth it. So practically what they do, they reduce the FC by reducing the or deducting the non-cash charges from it, so that the Q star comes down. So those kind of tricks are there. Nothing wrong as long as you clearly mention what you are doing. So in that case, it becomes it's not just a break-even analysis; it is a cash break-even analysis in that case. Okay, and the thing is, there is something called as a break-even, or maybe we can continue this question, the question that we were uh, you know doing previously. Mm, uh, okay, so I'll frame another question. Let's say this is a after E. Let's say this is F part. It's the same question we are carrying forward. So if non-cash component, let's say 5 lakhs, are deducted from case A. Okay, so we are taking the first case which was given in the problem. What will be the new Q star? Okay, so what I'm saying is whatever number of units that you are producing in your answer to your question A, which was 4,30,000. So you do the same thing. It's just that in among like from this fixed cost of 21,60,000, you need to subtract 5 lakhs of fixed charges or non-cash charges. Okay, so in such case your total cost will be reduced. Okay, so that will become um, no need for total cost. They are asking Q star, so FC will be uh, what is this 21,000 21 lakh 60,000. So in this case your new Q star will become FC minus non-cash charges, and P minus V remains as it is. So that was 21 lakh 60,000, and I'm saying 5 lakhs you can deduct from this as uh, you know non-cash charges. So that may include depreciation of various machines, amortization for various intangible assets, etc., deferred taxes, all those things, loan provisioning, bad debt, NPA, वगैरह का provisioning, and all those things. So P is 11.8 and this is 3.85. So other costs remain same because we are only tweaking the fixed cost. We are not doing anything else with the selling price and variable cost per unit. Okay, so those things remain as it is, minus 5,000. 5 lakhs divided by 11.81 minus 3.85. Okay. So if you do that, the new break even that you get is you just need to produce 2,85,043 units. Okay. So if you compare this with your first case break even, okay, so that was around 2,70,000, 71,356. Okay, but here because the fixed cost is now decreased, so your break even is also decreased accordingly. Okay. So this kind of question also they can ask. And again, one more question that can be asked from this is, uh, like, uh, like let's say we are following case F only. So this is the next part of case F. What will be the uh, what will be the break even point BEP with targeted profit of, let's say, 10 lakhs. Okay. So what I'm asking you is now, see, if you produced only 2 lakh 8,000 units, the profit is zero because that's the break even. But I want now, new break even where, I want the profit of 10 lakh rupees. Okay, so actually it should not be called as break even per se, because strictly speaking break even is not, so maybe we'll call this as what is the net volume that you need to produce in order to get 10 lakh as the uh, this thing, you know uh, net profit. Okay. So in such cases, what is, you should understand one thing. What I'm asking you is, first if you just look at your simple diagram. So see, when I say you have reached the break even, you are here, and I'm asking you to find, let's say this is your 10 lakh. Okay, so this is your 10 lakh, for example. So I am asking you to find this plus this. So Q star you already know, break even. Now you have to finally find how much you need to produce more to achieve the 10 lakhs of profit. Okay. So how do you do that? Is basically, you know to achieve 10 lakhs. This is 1 lakh, 10 lakhs of profit, uh, additional volume, additional volume. So this is additional to your Q star, because see, when you produce Q star, profit is zero. So profit comes after Q star. So what is the additional volume? Let's say after Q star to be produced will be equal to, see, this is your profit 10 lakh, right, divided by P minus V, because if you produce 1 unit, you are selling it at 11.81, and to make it you need variable cost of 3.85, right? So to to oh, 1 second. uh, yeah, so that is around 8,000 more. Okay, so 10 lakh divided by 11.81 minus 3.85. So not 8,000, it is around 1 lakh 25, 1 lakh 25,628 units. Okay, so you need to produce this many additional units to Q star in order to get 10 lakhs of profit. So your total volume that you produce is Q star you already produced to achieve the break-even point, and after that you add this much additional units, so that your net profit becomes uh, 10 lakhs. Okay, so 2085 is your 8543 is your break even. You add 1256288, so you need to produce 3,34,171 units in total. Okay, so that you will get 10 lakhs of net profit. Okay, so this is how this kind of calculations should be done. I can frame much more questions also, but this is broadly speaking, the difficulty level that you should expect in your exam. Okay. Then there is one more topic is there, which is called as time lag, etc. Professor has given you formula also, so you can look into it, but usually that's not that important, so we'll skip it this time. Okay, and yeah, so maybe there are sometimes these type of questions, statement type of questions. Okay, so what is the question? I will give you. To increase the margin of safety, following measures are under consideration. Okay, first is increase sales price. Second, increase output. Third is reduce variable cost. So these costs are per unit basis basically. Sometimes they don't mention these are unit basis, so you have to assume these things. Okay, so the question is which of the options are correct measure. Okay, so this is like a typical statement type of questions. So here sometimes students may get confused in this kind of terminologies, but that is basically means to increase the profitability. See, margin of safety is if something untoward incident happens in the future, recent future or near future, your company or firm should be safe. So basically you should have enough reserves or enough profits, so you can for example, if during 2020 when the COVID-19 pandemic happened, if any company was under a huge debt, the survival would be difficult for that company, would have been. But let's say if some company has zero debt and they have enough ample amount of cash reserves on their balance sheet, so for such companies, the survival would not have been difficult even during the COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, so that's what this question basically means when they say margin of safety. So you should know that if you increase the price, obviously your Q star decreases and you will have more margin. If you increase the output, that is also good because you are selling more number of units, assuming is always good. More volume is always good. That is called as economies of scales. Okay, so that's why this mass production businesses are always, not always, but like generally, the businesses which are operating on the mass scale basis are more secure or more safer than the businesses which are dependent on concentrated clients, okay, or concentrated or lesser volumes if they operate on, because they can't leverage the economies of scales for those things. And if you reduce the variable cost, that is also good because that increases your operational efficiency or your reduces your Q star, so that is also good. Okay, so all of the above. So the answer is all of above. Okay, so these kind of questions also they sometimes ask, so you should be thorough with these. Okay, and then these type of questions are also there. One second, let me just drink some water. they basically, in this type of questions, they give you two scenarios, and they ask that what happens in one scenario, what happens in another scenario, like that. Okay, so there is one table I'll give you, which is nothing but manual method, and there is one automatic method. Okay, so there are two methods to do a task, particular task. Nothing is mentioned about the nature of the task, doesn't matter. Okay, so they have given these things, fixed cost for both the methods as 2000 for manual, whereas automated things are costly, so they have fixed cost of 11,000. Manual method is cheaper, but variable cost is more for manual method, because or maybe this is variable cost per unit. Okay, so 1.75. But if you use automatic machine, obviously the per unit cost is less. Okay, so this information is given to you in this question, and what they are saying is, with annual production rate of 5,000, with annual production rate of 5,000 units, how long will it take? How long will it take to, for automatic method to become superior? Okay, so these kind of questions are common. So basically, you have to compare two alternatives and tell that how much time will it take for one to become better than the other, or if I have this much requirement of number of products in number of units, so which method should I go with? Okay, so in this case you have to compare. Okay, so the solution is always compare total costs. Okay, total costs for all alternatives. Okay, so what I mean by that is, if I compare, let's say TC, if I call this as 1 and 2, so manual is 1 and automatic is 2, so that will be FC1 into VC1, right? So fixed cost is 2000, variable cost is around is 1.75 into, let's say, Q. So Q is the number of units that you produce. Okay, and similarly TC2 will be FC2 plus VC2. So what is the FC2? That is 11,000 plus 0.75 into Q. So basically we need to find Q where TC1 and TC2 are same. Okay, so so you need to compare. So basically, to find the equivalent condition, you need to equate them and then get the Q, so that you'll get the idea about next step. Okay, so here if you do that, what does it give you? 2000 plus 1.75 Q is 11,000 plus 0.75 Q. So if you solve for Q, you get 9,000. If I'm not wrong, yeah, 9,000. Isn't it? Because this 1.75 minus 0.75, that becomes 1, and 11,000 minus 2,000, that is 9,000. So now, this is, if you produce this much amount of units, both the total costs are same. Okay. So what does this mean? So you should draw in these kind of problems. It's always good to draw something called as cost versus volume plot. Okay. So let's use red for manual. So in manual process, the fixed cost is around 2000, and then you have variable cost which is very high. Okay. So the slope is very high for this line as compared to the other line. Okay, so maybe something like this. And for the other, so let's say this is your manual. Okay. And for the other line, your fixed cost is huge. For automatic, the fixed cost is huge. Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. There is something wrong in this, isn't it? Anyway, yeah, these costs will be on above the y-axis, right? Yeah. So this is your automatic. So its slope will be lesser because the slope is 0.75 only, right? So it will be something like this. This is your automatic method total cost. So basically TC2 we are plotting. So this is nothing but 11,000. Okay. And then we plot for your manual. So that is TC1. Okay. So that is less compared to this thing, but the slope is more, isn't it? Because it's 1.5. So this is your manual TC1. Okay. And this 9,000 is nothing but this point where both of their total costs are same. Okay. So this is that point. Okay. So for Q equal to 9,000 units, uh, both give the same total cost. So what it means is, if you want to produce more number of units, in that case, automatic method is better because the total cost is less, right? For automatic method, if you have Q greater than 9,000, whereas if you have Q, let's say, less than 9,000, so in this scenario, manual method is superior. Manual method is better, isn't it? Because you don't have to put up a lot of fixed cost initially only. So if you want to produce less number of units, no need to go for higher cost automatic machines or automatic methods. Okay, but in the question they are not asking about the quantity, they are asking how long will it take for automatic method to become superior. Okay, so that means how long will it take to produce at least 9,000 units, and they have given you the production rate which is 5,000 units. Okay, so that is actually annual production rate. So that means uh, time required to produce this many 9,000 units is equal to 9,000 by 5,000 per year, right? So that is 1.4 years. Okay, so oh, is it 9 by 4, 9 by 5, right? So it's not 1, it is 2.2. Sorry, it is 1.8. What am I doing? Okay, so like that. Okay, so sometimes they ask the quantity, or sometimes they will ask you the time. So if you are going to operate this machinery at this 5,000 units per year capacity for at least 1.8 years, then both methods are okay. Or if it is less than 1.8, then go with the manual method. No need to put up automatic methods. But if it is more than 1.8 years, you should go with the automatic option. And that's why you might have noticed that in many of the factories, automation is on the rise, because in the long run, even if the initial fixed cost is high, in the long run you have lesser variable cost, and that gives you better or lower this thing, total cost in the long run. So accordingly, you need to take decisions. Okay, so this is more or less about break-even analysis, and then there was some discussion on the this EOQ, economic order quantity, etc. Yeah, and before that there was some discussion on this uh, dual break-even points. So basically, as I told you initially only, we assume that this total cost will be a linear line. It may not be. In some cases, they give it as a quadratic line because, as I said, in some businesses, when they are cyclical businesses, the revenue is not linear. It is non-linear sometimes. So they have quadratic variation for revenue, or maybe cubic or anything. Any non-linear variation will be there. And for production cost, or this total cost for production, that is fixed cost plus variable cost, that usually is in the control of the firm or factory. So that's usually kept as linear, and then you find the point of intersection, all those things. Okay. Professor had taken one problem on that, so I'm not taking it again. So you may go and check those things again, revise those for your exam if you are preparing to appear for. Then there is some discussion on something called as EOQ, economic order quantity. Okay. Economic order quantity. So again, this is also a idealization of a practical process. Usually, there are a lot of complications in the real life when you order something on a periodic basis also, because there are some concepts called as supply planning, demand planning. So usually it's difficult to produce or predict these annual demands, etc., etc. But nonetheless, this is a simple model which gives you the first level understanding of this kind of economic order quantities. So basically, you have, so here you have in our break-even analysis that we studied some time back, we had two costs, total cost and revenue, and then we found the break-even as their intersection point. So in this case, you have two costs, okay, that come into picture when you order something. First is the cost of ordering the thing, because you have to raise PO, etc., etc. So that is called as purchase cost. Okay, and purchase cost is basically uh, you know or purchase order. Uh, so that depends on how many times, like how many number of times annually you order. For example, if you want to order, let's say total 1 lakh of units, or let's say 12,000 units per year. So if you order 1,000 per month, that is number of orders will be 2. So you have to raise 2 POs, etc., etc. But if you order more in one order, let's say you order, let's say 6,000 per order, so then you have to only raise 2 POs. So as Q increases, this purchase cost goes down. Okay, so let me just give you one simple this thing. Okay, like, because the formula etc. is with you, so you can look up those. But what I'm trying to say is, uh, there are two costs. One is purchase order cost, or uh, purchase cost also they sometimes call. One second. Yeah, so you will have something called as ordering cost, which is non-linear actually. So depending on uh, you know uh, as I told you, if you order in bulk, so number of orders reduces, so therefore the ordering cost goes down. So this is called as purchase cost. Okay, And then there is a second cost which comes with this, is called as inventory cost or handling cost. Okay, so because if you order something, you need to store it somewhere, right? So that is the cost which is classified as inventory cost. Okay, and it depends. So if you order more stuff, you will have more inventory cost. Okay, so if you order less, you'll have less inventory to hold. Okay, this is called as uh, holding cost. Usually, this is called as holding cost. And then the total cost is sum of these two costs. Okay, and also there is a third component which is called as the actual uh, cost of the purchase quantity. So that is nothing but purchase quantity per order into the unit price. Okay, so that's how the total cost is made up. Okay, but the variation is something like this. Sorry. Okay. So if you plot, you'll have some non-linear variation for total cost. Okay, and then what happens wherever you have this intersection of these two lines, basically that will give you a point where you will have minimum total cost. Okay, so this point gives you a minimum total cost. Okay, so this is your uh, minimum total cost condition. Okay, and this is called as your EOQ, economic order quantity. Okay, so you know, I mean, these things are already taught to you in the class, so that's why I'm not going into the details. So total cost is nothing but sum of these three costs. Okay, so actual uh, uh, what do you call this, item cost plus purchase cost and plus holding cost. Okay, and then you, let's say you have annual demand of D, and this thing, the item cost is, let's say, some uh, CI or something. I'm using the same symbols that were used in the class, so that you can correlate those. Purchase cost is nothing but this thing, how many times you order and what is the purchase cost per unit time. So that will be D by Q. Okay, so Q is nothing but order quantity one time. That is your CP's purchase cost per order. And then you have this holding cost, and here you consider average inventory, because we assume the case of instantaneous replenishment in these derivations. So in such cases, you have Q inventory at the start, and it linearly goes down to zero before the next order, and as soon as you place the next order, you get the delivery. Okay, so that is called as instantaneous replenishment. So this is Q by 2 is average inventory cost in that case. And then you get one Q star, which is called as economic order quantity, which gives you the minimum. uh, so that's why uh, you take the derivative of total cost. This is your total cost, and with respect to Q, and equate it to zero, and that gives you the minimum order quantity, and it is nothing but 2 into D into CP by CH. Okay, so you should note one thing, that uh, this Q star is not a function of item cost. Okay, so it doesn't matter what is the cost of item that you're ordering. It only depends on total annual demand. CP is your purchase cost per order, and CH is your holding cost per unit of inventory, per unit of item basically. Okay. So one thing you should remember is your economic order quantity does not depend on the actual item cost that you are ordering. Okay. And it was not discussed in the class, but there is something else. Sometimes if you order in bulk, so if your Q is very high, in some cases you get discounts. Okay, so in those cases you need to modify your total cost function accordingly, and sometimes you have to take the call whether ordering in bulk is is more cost beneficial than ordering in the less amount. Okay, so those things are there, but I think that is part of operations research topic, not the this topic, which is concerned mostly with the financial maths. But all those things are there. Okay, so maybe we can take one simple example. Okay, so a manufacturer estimates carrying cost at 30% and ordering cost at 80 per order. Annual demand is 45,000 units at a price of 9 per unit. This is unit price. The EOQ is units per order. Okay, so this this is units will be so this EOQ is nothing but how many number of units you order per how many units you order in one order basically. Okay, so that is called as EOQ. Okay, so here the tricky part is only this part where you have this carrying cost at 30%. So usually that is the convention. They don't give you carrying cost as a separate cost. In some problems they do, but here the carrying cost is mentioned as 30%. Okay, carrying cost. Okay, and conventionally it is nothing but that is 30% of unit price. Okay, so whatever is the price of unit, single unit is there, 30% of that is estimated to be the handling or holding cost or carrying cost. Okay, so therefore your CH is nothing but 0.3 into 9, because 9 is the price per unit, so that gives you 2.7. Okay, so 2.7 per unit. Okay, so you are spending at least, on an average 2.7 per unit to just keep it in the inventory, and that is why it is not good to have a large inventory in many cases. But in some cases, if you are not reliable on your suppliers, etc., you don't want to lose the business, so you carry the more holding cost in terms of more inventory or larger inventory. Okay, and then you can calculate EOQ directly. The formula is there: 2D C CP and CH. Okay. So 2 into 45,000. This purchase cost is, which should be per order, so that is given as it is, and this is 2.7. Okay, so if you do this, you get the EOQ of 3633 units, okay, per order. So this much, if you order this much units in one order, the total cost will be minimum, mathematically speaking. So what happens? So now I can ask you how many orders. How many orders will you need to place? How many orders need to be placed? Okay, so that can be also one question. It was not asked in this question, but it can be asked, right? Because see, the number of orders is capital N. You have demand of 45,000, and you are ordering some EOQ per order. So you have to divide 45,000 by 3633. Okay. So what will that be? 45,000 divided by 3633. So that is around 12.4. But one thing you should know is that you can place only number of orders only in integers. Okay, so you have to place 13 orders. You cannot place 12 orders, because then there will be some remaining. So the summation will not be 45,000, it will be slightly less than that. So you have to place one more order. So like that, these kind of calculations should be done. Okay. And then there was a discussion on something called as economic production quantity. So this is a slightly uh, reverse kind of thing as compared to EOQ. Okay, so here basically what you do is you in EOQ basically you are ordering everything from outside. So you are not doing any in-house production. But in EPQ model, what you do is you produce and consume. So you produce some items, and some of them are sent to inventory, and some of them are uh, sent out also to whatever demands you are catering to. Okay. So here the only difference is the average inventory that you hold is not Q by 2. Here that depends on your production rate and depletion rate. So how much you are producing and how much at what rate it is getting depleted from your inventory. You can look it up. It's not difficult. That's the major difference. Other than that, since here you are producing, you need to see. Earlier case you were ordering, right? So number of orders were the uh, main main factor contributing to purchase cost. But here what you do, you start the production in one batch and let the inventory build up. Then you stop the production and then let the inventory deplete. And when your inventory is zero, you start the next production rate batch. Okay, so that's how it is modeled. Okay, you can look it up. There are various assumptions involved, but motamoti the idea is that only that you have a production number of batches. So each batch, like that is also called as a instantaneous start to the production. Okay, but usually it takes time to start production. But in these models, they assume certain idealizations, and that is one of them. So in this case, your total cost, TC is function of item cost again, because you are producing something, right? So it will have some cost. Then for before start of every batch of production, you need to do some setup, and that also involves some setup activities, which costs. And then you need to hold your inventory. Okay. So here, as I told you, see this will be same, because whatever your annual demand is there, you will produce that much and sell that. Okay, so that is unit cost. Setup cost per setup is something like this, and then whatever is your annual demand, you divide by your quantity that you produce per setup. And here the holding cost, and then instead of half into Q, here you get one multiplying factor, P minus D by P. Okay, this P is called as production rate per batch, and D is called as depletion rate. So you can guess from the names only that P is positive and D is negative, so that's why this P minus D things come. Okay, and therefore again you have to do the same thing. Take the derivative of total cost with respect to Q and equate it to 0. That gives you the condition where you will have minimum total cost, and for that the EPQ, the economic production quantity, which means how much or how many number of items you should produce in one set or in one batch, that you get is something like this: 2 into CS, that is setup cost, annual demand, holding cost, into this factor of P minus P by P minus D. Okay. Here also you should remember it is not a function of item cost. Okay, so it doesn't matter how costly item you are producing for these calculations, because uh, that is not the variable, because annual demand is constant. So if you are producing higher costlier items, it doesn't matter, as long as annual demand is D, it is a constant thing. Okay. So this is the basic idea about it, and there is one more thing is there. So as P, which is your production rate, approaches infinity, so this is called as instantaneous replenishment scenario. So basically, you are producing in such a large production rates whenever you start, uh, you know that your full inventory is getting completed within very very short span of time. That is called as instantaneous replacement. And in that case, your EPQ, which is your economic production quantity, approaches your EOQ. Okay? So that is your economic order quantity. So this is also sometimes asked in some competitive exams. So you can remember these kind of things. Because when P tends to infinity, this P by P minus D factor, this factor goes to unity, and you basically have EOQ formula again. Okay. So these kind of things are there. You can solve some problems. A lot of problems are there available online. I would have taken one, but we have limited time, so we'll move on to your leverage topic. Okay. Because there are some formulas there that you should revise. Okay. So let's go to that, because I think we have less time remaining. Okay. So leverage. Okay. So this is not the leverage that is used in equity markets. This is something else. This is more of a financial term. Okay. So this assumes that you are having certain business, you are doing some sales, and you are doing, your business is doing well. But the point is, you need to ask yourself that whatever selling price that we have, or whatever sales that we are doing, uh, if we increase the sales price by 1 unit, what will be the impact on our bottom line, or the firm's bottom line? So that is something represented by leverage. Okay. So basically, the profit sensitivity profit sensitivity to variability of sales. Okay, so this is a broad definition of leverage. There are three types of leverages. One is called as operational leverage. That is, OL is the symbol that is used. Another one is called as financial leverage, FL, and total leverage. So that is TL, and that is nothing but OL into FL. Okay. So you need to study OL and FL. Once you know that, you can just get the third one, which is multiplication of OL and FL. Okay. So what is operational leverage? It is basically you consider two factors here, which are called as change in your operating income relative to change in sales. Okay, percentage, basically percentage delta in operating income. I am using the same symbol as the professor used in the class. Okay, relative to percentage change in sales. Okay, OI is your operating income. Okay, and financial leverage is nothing but percentage change in EPS, earnings per share, relative to percentage change in operating income. Okay. And therefore the total leverage is called as percentage change in EPS relative to percentage change in sales. Okay. So then each of them has something called as degree of leverage. Okay, so you will have something called as degree of operational leverage. Okay, so it I mean, they use the acronym DOL for such factor, and it will be nothing but percentage change in your operating income divided by percentage change in your sales. Okay, so they use capital S for that. So that is nothing but OY2 minus OY1. So you are going from 1 to 2. Similarly, you have to go from sales at stage 2 to sales at one stage. But since this is a percentage, so you have to take the initial uh, quantity in the denominator in each ratio, numerator and denominator. So what it signifies is if your sales change by 1%, by what percentage your operational income changes. That is what it signifies. Okay. So then they ask some questions like this. Okay, so maybe we'll take one simple question here. The operating income for a business increases from 920 to 1800, and as it expanded, its sales from 4500 to 6000. The DOL is what? Okay. So first thing is the calculation that you can do. The other important thing is the interpretation. Okay. So we'll see those. Let's just calculate. So OY2 here is 1800 minus 920 divided by 920. That is your numerator. In the denominator you have 6000 minus 4500 divided by 4500. If you do this calculation, you should get 2.87. Okay. This is the answer. But this means if there is 1% change in your sales, there will be 2.87% change in your operating income. They call this as EBIT also, earnings before interest and taxes. Okay. So that is one thing that see what happens sometimes. Now there are some sales, for example, big billion day, etc., etc. So on those days, what happens? Your sales increases, but you give discount also on those products, right? Because whenever there is sale, there has to be a discount. Otherwise, people will not come, because that's not the sale. That's like normal day-to-day operation, right? So what happens whenever you have sales? I'm talking about some enterprise point of view, and let's say you have inventory build-up, etc. So what you do is to reduce your carrying cost or handling cost, holding cost. Sorry, you schedule a sales. So Diwali sale or Dasra sale, whatever you want to do, a big billion day, all those things are example of such things. But what happens on those days? You are giving discounts on the unit prices. So even though your sales increases, that means your bottom ratio will increase in this DOL formula. But you will not have same proportional increase in your numerator, which is your operating income or EBIT. Because what you do is the unit that you are selling at 10 rupees, normally you sell it at 8 rupees or 9 rupees during the sales. Okay, so this DOL is a powerful tool that you can monitor and see. Because what happens many times, enterprises or businesses think that if you sell more, uh, you will be more profitable or your income will increase accordingly, proportionately. It doesn't happen. If you are giving discount on the unit price itself, that takes away the benefit that you get from volume increase. Okay, so all those things are there, so you can think of them from that point of view as well. Okay, and then there is another formula for this DOL. The derivation was given by professor also, so we will not do it again. So it was Q into P minus V divided by Q into P minus V minus FC. Okay, this was another formula that was given. One thing to note here is as fixed cost increases, your DOL also increases. Okay, so sometimes people think it's a good thing, but you should go back to the start of this class. We had seen that this BUQ Q star also increases. Okay, so you have to take a call because this uh, increase in fixed cost has one positive effect on DOL, whereas negative effect on Q star. Okay, so it's not a like very good thing to have higher fixed costs. Okay, otherwise everybody would have had them. And one more thing that you should know is, this if you are using this formula, let's say if Q is equal to Q star, Q star is nothing but economic, oh, not not economic order quantity, that is break even point. Okay, so we know what is Q star, that is FC by E minus V from our previous calculations, right? So if you plug that in Q star, I mean this formula here, you will see that the degree of leverage that you have when you have Q equal to Q star is nothing but infinity. Okay, so uh, because your profits are zero only, so the denominator goes to zero. Numerator there will be some fixed cost, something like that. Okay, so uh, there are no profits. Basically, that's why calculating the DOL at uh, Q star is meaningless. Basically, that's the point. Okay, so that is one question that you can expect if they ask from this. So then they have this thing, like one numerical is also there from this. One second. Yeah. So so they have given you this fixed cost for a one second. There is some so there is something in this problem. They have given you a fixed cost of 2150. Variable cost is given as 6 per unit. Unit price or selling price is given as 8 per unit. Okay. And the amount of units sold is around 1600. 1600, and they are asking you to find DOL. Okay, so I'm not giving you the language of the question because we have very small amount of time left. But in these questions, you need to use this new formula that is given. So that will be Q into P minus V. So that is 8 minus 6 divided by 6, same thing, minus FC. FC is 2150. So that is 3200, and 32 minus this thing, that will be 2050. Then 1050, sorry. Yeah, so that's why uh, yeah, so you will have 3.05, something like that. This is sometimes they ask this kind of questions and you need to answer like this. 3.047, so yeah, 3.05. Okay, and then maybe we'll stop after this, because in the this operational leverage has degree of operational leverage. So similarly, you have degree of financial leverage. Okay, and that will be nothing but if they have given you EPS vagera in the problem, so that will be EPS 2 minus EPS 1 divided by EPS 1, and then in the denominator you will have operational income. OY2 minus OY1 divided by OY1. Otherwise, they have, you know, the question is how to find the EPS. Okay. So in general, this EPS is calculated as uh, net income minus dividend on preferred stocks. This preferred stock, etc., we'll see later. I think there is a dedicated class on this also. And this is called a number of outstanding shares or number of shares or number of common shares. And this net income, let's say NI, if I say, it is nothing but operational income. So this OI term that we are using minus interest and taxes, and this operational income is nothing but gross income minus operational expenses. Okay, so the calculation of EPS is not that straightforward. So if in some problem they have directly given you EPS, you can use it, but if not, they will give you some table with these data points, so you need to calculate EPS from this formula. And otherwise, there is one more formula for DFL, degree of financial leverage, which is given by operational income divided by operational income minus interest plus this dividend on preferred stock divided by tax rate, 1 minus tax rate. But this last formula, I mean, very less chance of any question on this because it's quite tedious to remember. Anyway, so this is most of it, and this degree of this thing, what you say, what do you say? See, one is operational, then financial, and then the last one is total. So total is just multiplication of first two, so no need to do it again. We'll take one simple problem and then stop for the day. Okay. So this is a different kind of questions that they ask. Okay. So the question is, a firm has percentage change in EPS of 48% and percentage change in sales of 34%. Okay. Then then what is the degree of total leverage or TTL? Okay. So I told you OL is degree of operational leverage is operating income by sales. Financial is EPS by operating income, and if you multiply them, you get the degree of total leverage. That will be percentage change in EPS divided by percentage change in sales, right? So here they have given you percentage change in EPS as 48 and percentage change in sales as 34. So you don't need to do anything, you just have to take the ratio of these two and you'll get the answer, which is 1.37. Okay. So like that you can tackle any other type of questions if they are asked. Okay, so with this we'll stop, and I hope these questions will help you in solving your assignment and even in your exams also later. So we'll stop and see you next time. Bye. Good night.